Hey everyone, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling one of the absolute biggest environmental challenges out there. But more importantly, we're looking at exactly how businesses can actually do something about it. We're unpacking the Ocean-Bound Plastic Certification, or OBP for short. You can think of this as your complete guide to how organizations can intercept marine pollution, make a really verifiable impact, and add a ton of value to their supply chains along the way.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We'll start with the ocean plastic problem, move into defining ocean-bound plastic, look at the certification framework itself, explore the financial mechanisms and benefits, and finally wrap up with the path to certification.
All right, Section 1, the ocean plastic problem. Let's just set the stage really quickly by looking at the macro issue we're dealing with globally.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is the origin of the pollution. When we think of plastic in the ocean, I think a lot of us immediately picture boats or offshore fishing fleets, right? But look at this. A staggering 80% of marine plastic actually comes from the land. We're talking about unmanaged waste, microplastics, macroplastics, the whole shebang, that gets abandoned in places where waste management is either totally non-existent or just incredibly inefficient. So what this data screams at us is that if we seriously want to clean up the oceans, the absolute most effective way to do it is to stop the plastic while it's still on land, way before it ever hits the water.
And that perfectly sets up Section 2, defining ocean-bound plastic. When you're dealing with international sustainability standards, precision is absolutely key.
So the crucial point here is understanding the difference between these two environments. We really have to separate ocean plastic from ocean-bound plastic. Ocean plastic is exactly what it sounds like. It's the waste that's already out there, floating in the sea. But ocean-bound plastic, or OBP, is the abandoned waste that's still on land, but is at a seriously high risk of ending up in the ocean. Catching it here, that's the ultimate preventative measure.
To keep things super regulated, the NGO behind this, Zero Plastic Oceans, breaks this waste down into 4 very specific categories. First, we have potential OBP, which is abandoned plastic sitting within 50 kilometers of the shore. Then, waterways OBP covers waste right in rivers or within 200 meters of riverbanks. Next is shoreline OBP, which is waste within 200 meters of the high tide line. And finally, fishing materials OBP, which covers plastic caught as bycatch and industry waste. Oh, and a super important side note here for anyone actually looking into the standard. Plastic that's sitting safely in a controlled landfill, that does not count as OBP. It literally has to be unmanaged waste to qualify.
Moving right along to Section 3, the certification framework. Let's look at how this standard systematically addresses the problem.
And this brilliantly illustrates how the certification covers every single link in the value chain. It can look like a lot of acronyms, but it's actually pretty straightforward. If your org works with commercially recyclable plastic, meaning it's valuable enough to sell to a recycler, you use the recycling subprogram. That ensures full ethical traceability from the moment it's collected. But what if the plastic is low value and can't be recycled commercially? Well, that falls under the neutrality subprogram, which lets credit issuers fund its collection. Then we have the social plus component. This is just an awesome addition for organizations wanting to deliver real ethical benefits directly to vulnerable waste picker communities. And lastly, the brand standard. That one is tailored for consumer brands who want to put those official OBP logos on their packaging and make totally verifiable claims. Next up, Section 4, financial mechanisms and benefits. Because let's be real, for a sustainability program to scale up globally, it has to make solid business sense, right? Let's look really closely at the OBP credit. This is a massive piece of the puzzle. It's basically a market-based mechanism that finances the collection of that non-commercially recyclable plastic we just talked about. Essentially, it takes low-value, completely unmanaged waste and turns its removal into a funded, verified environmental action. Companies can buy these credits to offset their own plastic footprint, which means they get to make a completely legitimate, traceable claim of plastic neutrality. Every single credit equals a verified amount of OBP that was permanently removed from the environment.
But it goes beyond just credits. There are some massive business benefits to getting OBGP certified. For starters, it totally opens doors to high-value markets and environmentally conscious consumers all over the world. But crucially, it is the ultimate tool to combat greenwashing. Because everything is backed by independent third-party verification, your environmental claims become totally bulletproof. On top of that, you're creating real social impact, protecting biodiversity, and hitting those increasingly strict international ESG requirements that big global partners are demanding these days. It's really a win-win.
Let's move to our 5th and final section and see how this all builds into the path to certification. Time to get practical.
Now, the bureaucratic side of getting certified might sound a little intimidating, but it's actually a very straightforward 4-step process. Step 1. Figure out the right standard for your specific role in the value chain. Step 2. Thoroughly review all the standard documents, especially those tricky definition guidelines, so you know exactly what kind of waste qualifies. Step 3. Select an official Zero Plastic Oceans approved certification body. Get your quotes and sign the contracts. And finally, Step 4. Prep for and undergo the audit itself. So that means setting up your procedures, managing your traceability registries, and making sure your internal training and documentation are completely locked in.
The really great news here is that you don't have to figure all this out on your own, especially if you're operating in major manufacturing hubs. For example, Vietnamese and foreign direct investment companies have access to this whole dedicated ecosystem of expert consultants. We're talking about partners like ISC Global, Staunchly Vietnam, and Juk Long Services. They provide end-to-end help, offering things like bilingual documentation, detailed gap analysis, and even mock audits. Having that kind of specialized regional support is honestly a game changer for efficiently meeting the standard and passing those third-party audits with confidence.
So, as we wrap up this explainer on the Zero Plastic Oceans framework, I want to leave you with one big question to think about. Where does your organization fit into the circular economy? The frameworks, the strict international standards, the regional support, it is all sitting right there, ready to help you turn a huge environmental crisis into a verifiable business opportunity. The plastic is sitting on land right now, and it's heading straight for the ocean. It's entirely up to global supply chains to step up and intercept it. Thanks so much for learning with us today, and we'll see you on the next explainer.